Hey everyone, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast. Woohoo! Where we highlight everyday humans doing crazy amazing things like giving back, like paying it forward, and just being all around crazy amazing humans. I'm Katrina Carlson.
And I'm Jefferson Denim. And we will be your travel guides as we embark on this adventure. Katrina and I have been friends and music collaborators for quite a few years now. We both met when our daughters were in preschool, like 3 years old, 2 years old, something like that?
I think that is when I had just finished recording my first CD.
Oh, right.
And I needed to start a band because I had a song and a film that was premiering at Sundance Film Festival. So I contacted you and said, please help.
Let's put a band together.
Yeah,
that was our first gig.
That was our first gig.
The Sundance Film Festival.
And
no pressure.
No pressure. And we've been doing creative things and music things ever since.
Right.
Yeah.
And so for our first episode, our inaugural episode, we're just going to kind of get to know each other a little bit. And then we're going to be interviewing Dr. Tom Catena and director-producer Ken Carlson as we discuss the works of Dr. Tom in the Nuba Mountains in Sudan and the award-winning documentary, The Heart of Nuba, which brought his story to light.
Absolutely. And lastly, we want to make sure to connect with you in order to give you the most uplifting stories that can inspire you to be the best crazy, amazing human you can be, because you are crazy amazing.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy, crazy amazing.
Part 2, bloom where you're planted.
I've chosen to live in Africa. I like that idea of staying in one place and becoming part of the community. So this is the reality of life here. I love the Nuba people. If I left, some people would die. So I'm in it. I'm all in.
Dr. Tom, he's the gynecologist, the physician, he's surgeon, he's everything.
Keep in mind that any airplane overhead is going to bomb somewhere. You imagine what effects this has on this generation of children.
The noise they make when they are afraid. I wish I didn't know that. I think that's a plane, so I think we have to move now. Quick.
Here it comes. Down. You feel like a hunted animal.
If anything happens to Tom, who's going to replace him?
From where he came, I don't know. I call it a miracle.
We cannot run and leave our patients.
The lives that people here matter as much as anywhere in the world. We can't lose sight of that, or else we lose our humanity.
Welcome, Dr. Tom Catena and Ken Carlson, to our inaugural episode of Crazy Amazing Humans. We feel so privileged to have you both here. We're really excited to share your stories with our audience because we are really trying to inspire people with everyday humans doing crazy amazing things, and we really believe you both did that. And you two inspired me to start this podcast, to start this concept of Crazy Amazing Humans, because I really saw this process of my husband, Ken Carlson.
Very proud to be.
Thank you. You guys go way back to college, and he heard about what you were up to, and he was so inspired that he made a film about you. I want to stop talking, and Jefferson.
And we want to get to know you. Well, my first question to you, Ken, is do you sleep with every singer-songwriter who has a song in your films?
I try.
Well done.
Okay.
My first question is for Tom. Should I call you Dr. Tom or Tom?
Tom is okay.
Tom is good.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Amsterdam, New York, right?
Yes.
Upstate New York. And you are one of 7
Yes, that's correct.
children, and we just found out you're the 5th.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which
Fifth
is
born.
near the baby.
Yep.
So were you always baby as you were like given special status? as a
We were
child?
the lower 3. We had the big 3, which my
Yes.
first 3 brothers, and they always got all the privileges that we thought. And I was kind of like, the middling kids. We were kind of there. We never got any special privileges. We were just kind of hanging around. But always, I think a lot of it is coming from a big family. You're always trying to prove yourself. and you're always competing with your older brothers. So I think that's, in a way, it pushed me a lot when I was growing up. My brother Gene was 4 years ahead of me, ended up going to West Point and was a pretty good athlete. So I was always kind of in competition with him. And I think that coming from a big family really forces you to push yourself.
And that's part of your identity, right? Being an athlete, and that's how you met Ken. Will you tell us a little bit, both of you guys, about your experience in college?
Well, first of all, Gene pushed him a little bit. He became an All-American football player at Brown University. So
Just
that's
a little push.
That's just a little push. We met in 1982 when we wore pilgrim shoes, those black shoes that they made us wear. These odd, awkward, stiff shoes they made us run the 40 in.
Yeah.
So the first day, I remember hitting helmets with Tom because we were both on defense, and I remember talking to him afterwards. And I was always impressed with the depth of the conversations that we had. Even back then, we all knew at Brown University that he was going to do something special. Didn't know quite how special and how amazing he would end up being. But we all knew this was a unique, inspired, special person. You could tell that on the football field.
So, Tom, you were a salutatorian,
Yes.
and you had some very inspirational words then, but who inspired you? You know, growing up, was there someone who inspired you?
You know, not really. I mean, I think maybe my grandfather on my mother's side, Felix J. Alisi. And, you know, for him, he was an Italian immigrant. He grew up in Amsterdam, New York. His father was a shoemaker. And he was an immigrant, so people made fun of him and called him Dirty Wop and Dago, and people are stupid and greasy and everything else. And I think that really stuck with him. But he grew up and did well in school, went to college, and became a lawyer, became a Supreme Court judge in New York State.
Wow!
And I think he was so proud of that, and he was so pro-American. Like, this is such a great country. You can come here from nothing, and kind of make it on your own wits. And that always stuck with me.
How about being the son of a judge? How was that? I mean,
yeah, you know, there was pressure. It's kind of being a preacher's son, Ken, which I think you can, a minister's son, which I think you know very well. I remember my brother growing up. The brother ahead of me, John, was a year and a half ahead of me, and he was, I mean, he was a little bit of a troublemaker in high school. And I remember my mom just yelling at me, say, "What are you doing? You're going to drag our name through the mud." I'm like, "What you talking about? I mean, drag our name through the mud? How do you do that?" Like, I'm thinking about, and she was so upset. Like, and my dad was a judge in my hometown, and we knew, we could not get in trouble with the law. I remember when I was in high school, we after graduation from high school, it was a tradition. You would go and take spray paint the parking lot at the high school. Like they had done this for like 100 years. So I went up there and I spray painted my initials on the parking lot. And some guys got carried away and started spray painting the building. One of the guys kind of squealed on us, so we all got in trouble. And my father was just livid with me. He was so upset, that I had kind of spoiled the family name. I remember feeling so bad about this. He like grounded me for the summer before we went to college, and was like, "You guys have to, scrape every bit of paint off that building," and blah blah blah. And he was really upset with us. So I mean, that really kind of hit me. That hit me pretty hard because I never got in trouble.
Yeah.
Never ever got in trouble.
You let your brother get.
I let John take all the heat. He was the one getting in trouble, so I was behind him. I could kind of sail along pretty easily.
I had a similar upbringing. I had a father that, of course, as you mentioned, was a minister, and I'll never forget playing in a summer league in softball where my father came to watch us play, and there was a play at second. I'd hit a ball that went in the outfield, and I had an opportunity to round second base, but there was the second baseman was in the way. So I took him out, because he was right in the baseline, and I had to go, and it was not there. Nothing happened. I didn't do anything illegal. I wasn't kicked out of the game. But after the game, my father just laid into me and said, "How dare you, invoke violence in this game?" And I said, "Well, that's part of the game." He was literally in my way.
He was trying to block you.
Yeah, and so it was natural. But I'll never forget the shellacking I got after that.
Yeah.
It's like scraping paint. I was scraping my my ego off of second plate.
So you guys both grew up in that environment, and now you both are serving other people in your own ways and found different ways to do that. Tom, tell us a little bit about how you got to the Nuba Mountains of Sudan.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's a bit of a circuitous path, as all things are in life. Yeah, I mean, growing up in Amsterdam, New York, I never would have thought I would have ended up in Africa, especially living there for 20 years. But when I was in college, I grew up as a Roman Catholic and still am to this day, of course. And a good friend of ours named Kent Dahlberg was the campus minister. I think probably through Kent's influence and other people in that group, I said, hey, I like to do missionary work. And I didn't really know what that meant, but I said, I want to be a missionary. But the problem was I was studying mechanical engineering. And though that was back in the 80s, and mechanical engineers went to work in the defense industry, which I think would have been a fine job, but it's not really what I wanted to do. I thought my calling, I want to be a missionary. And then, time goes on. I graduate. I get a job with GE with their nuclear submarine program. It was a pretty darn good job. But I just didn't feel satisfied. I just didn't feel I felt something was not quite right. And then around the same time, I went to my great aunt's funeral. So my great aunt, her name was Aunt Fanny, and she was a Sicilian immigrant. So myself and my brother Felix were driving back from Aunt Fanny's funeral. And literally the idea just pops in my head. I turned to my brother, I said, Phil, I should go to medical school. I should be a medical doctor. He says, what? What are you talking about? You're supposed to be an engineer. I thought you already have a job. What are you talking about? I said, no, I really need to do this. So I got home and talked to my parents, and they were pretty supportive, and a few friends, and they were pretty supportive. I thought, no, let me follow this through, because that way I can do missionary work. I can help people. I can work with people. I love the sciences. I was more of a sciences person than a humanities. I thought I could stay in the sciences. And one thing led to another. And after many, many years, I followed through and everything and ended up as a lay missionary or a medical missionary in Africa in January 2000.
You said in another interview, I thought this was kind of interesting. You show up, you tell yourself, I'm just going to go do this Africa thing for 1 year.
Right.
Just going to go for 1 year, check it out. And you were with a girlfriend, and she said, well, then see you later.
Right.
Thanks. And so you get there, and there was a nun there that said...
First person I met is Sister Bridget, who's an Irish nun. So I thought, well, I'm going to come here for a year, then if it doesn't, I'm out of here. She's like, oh, Dr. Tom, welcome. I hear you're coming for 2 years. And I thought, okay, I guess I'll stay for 2 years. Like I didn't want to tell her.
Disappoint her.
I didn't want to disappoint her. Say, I'm just coming for a year. Then I'm out of here. I thought, well, okay, I'll stay for 2 years. And then 2 led to 3, led to 4, led to 5, and then 20 years later, I'm still there.
Now you had said that when you got to Africa, you were trained like in family practice. Is that correct?
Right.
And so, how in the world did you broaden your scope? Because we know through Ken's film that you do it all.
Yeah.
I mean, you're the only doctor, in like a 200-mile radius? Is that right, Ken, or something like that?
And we like to say that he's the last line of defense. I mean, literally, there's no one outside of that. So
we're pretty much it. I mean, it's not really any referral system. So I was a family practice resident in the U.S. And I mean, nowadays, family practice, you're pretty limited. It's outpatient medicine, a little bit of inpatient. Very, very, very few people learn how to do C-sections, and that's getting fewer as time goes on. Yeah, I went to Africa in January 2000, and I think it was just a process of learning from a series of doctors that were patient enough to teach me. Tropical medicine, I really learned on the job. I'd never treated malaria. I'd never really treated TB. All the gastroenteritis problems you have with babies, a lot of the complicated obstetrical problems I hadn't treated, hadn't done any surgery. I did 1 C-section in training, and that was with the obstetrician across from me. So as soon as I get to Kenya, I did a couple with the other doc, and the first time I had to do it on my own, the other doctors disappeared. So Sister Marion was gone and Pat Myers was gone. So I remember I was there by myself, and there was a young lady who had a previous C-section who was in labor. And I remember being in the church. I went to the church beforehand, and I was praying to God that she delivered normally. I was sweating bullets because I said, "Wait a minute, man! I'm not really that confident in doing this." But there was no way to refer her out, and she was deep in labor. So I waited, and I thought, she's not going to deliver. And the midwives are saying, doctor, this lady can't deliver. You got to do a C-section. So we took her to the operating room, and the C-section went perfectly. Got a live baby, mother survived, everything went fine. But that, I remember, I will never forget that, sweating that out. And,
like life is what happens when you're making other plans, and sometimes you get just thrown into something, right?
Absolutely. I never thought these guys would take off, and they were just, I got there and like, okay, we're out of here, and they disappeared. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't really know that much. Don't leave me yet.
Wow.
So, I mean, luckily, most of my time in Africa I had people around that were very willing to teach me things.
So you had some amazing training, some amazing mentors.
Yes.
And I really think that's probably a theme for everyone who gets to do anything that's on the next level and on the next level, the kind of mentors you have throughout. And people who inspire you. And I wanted to bring it over to Ken, because how did you hear, you were friends with Tom in college, and then, kind of tell people how you heard about, what he was doing. And
Yeah, well, typical males after college, we fell out of touch. We don't pen letters, or we didn't call. And I'd heard that Tom was in Africa, but I didn't know where. And when I received an email that said Catman needs our help, I immediately read it and found out that a truck that was headed for the Nuba Mountains with supplies, food supplies, medical supplies, like a year's worth. Am I right in saying that? It was hijacked, and and everything was taken. Even the truck was taken, or it was destroyed. And so we, as a Brown community, mainly the football team, for the years around 85, 86, 87, raised I think $102,000. And got a new truck,
like really fast.
In 2 weeks, I think, and put more supplies than on before. Got it up there a couple days before the rainy season hit. I remember that whole process, helping out and making calls and sending emails out and going, wow, this is an incredible story. Tom is out there doing this. He needs our help. It's got to be a good story in it. There's got to be something in it. So I reached out to Tom, and Tom proceeded to tell me no way. But I showed up in 2014 and convinced him that I was interested in making this film and that he was a worthy subject, and he kept on shooing me away. Took 8 days to get an interview out of him, an actual sit-down interview.
So you were there for 8 days?
8 days.
How long did it take you to get there?
It took me 7 days to get there. You see the film, The Heart of Nuba, and he's frenetic. The guy's just constantly going. I mean, one day he had, I think, 17 cases in OR. 17 cases. Cases like two amputations, lacerations. A woman had a shrapnel in her eye. He had a DNC that was one of the most difficult things I've ever seen anybody do in an operating room. And afterwards, he hustled back to clean the solar panels because electricity was needed for the next day's, needs in the hospital. So it's just, so it's understandable why it took 8 days, because he's so busy. And he didn't want the villagers and the staff members to see a camera pointed at him, and he didn't want to make more of a fuss.
So, Tom, tell us about what was going on in Nuba, in the Nuba Mountains, at that time when Ken was shooting there.
Right.
And prior to, kind of a little bit background of what was happening.
Yeah, we live in a very confusing part of the world. We're in the Republic of Sudan. The area is called Nuba Mountains, which is in the southern part of the Republic of Sudan. Sudan divided into two countries in July of 2011. So now there's South Sudan and Sudan. We're still in Sudan. Our region of Nuba Mountains has pretty much been in civil war since the 80s. The more recent civil war started in June 2011. So just before the country divided, our area erupted into civil war against the central government in Khartoum. So now we're 3 years into the war, and Ken comes out. And, there was a lot of ground fighting fairly close by to us. It was actually a bit, when Ken was there, it was a bit further away than it encroached.
You could still
closer.
hear it.
Yeah. You could hear a lot of the ground fighting all the time. And we were certainly under threat of air bombardment all the time. And just after Ken left in 2014, the hospital was bombed twice. And our local area was bombed on several times. Within, a quarter of a mile, it was bombed on several occasions. So it's an area really of civil war and strife. It's an extremely remote part of the world.
You are the only actual medical doctor in that area during that entire war. Right. You got there in what year?
2008. Right.
And little did you know, less than 3 years later, war broke out.
Right.
And now you're in a full-blown ground and air striking war.
Right.
And you are almost like a MASH unit, right?
Yeah.
As well as you're helping people deliver babies and just, someone's got an ear infection.
Right.
Right. And so supplies-wise, tell us a little bit about how you work there, because you can barely have it's a bare bones situation.
We're fairly basic in what we can do. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with limited resources. So for supplies, pretty much everything comes from Kenya, from Nairobi. So, we're here in Los Angeles. It's like, buying something in, I don't know, Honduras and saying, all of our stuff comes from Honduras, and we get up here to Los Angeles by road, like crap. And then there's already Mexico is you can't travel through Mexico for 6 months of the year. So everything's got to come in, and there's fighting going on where you are. So logistical challenges are sometimes insurmountable. They're terrible. So we got to buy everything there. It's got to come, and we've done it various ways, sometimes flying things in at huge expense, or by truck through Kenya, through Uganda, into South Sudan, which, South Sudan is really a country which has had tremendous problems, civil wars of its own. After they got independence in 2011, they broke down into civil war with, 500,000 people killed and another couple million displaced. It's a terrible place. So a truck's got to pass through South Sudan, through another war zone, pass through, I don't know how many checkpoints, 30, 40 checkpoints manned by soldiers that have not been paid in a year, that have guns. So imagine they see something coming through and they got a gun and they haven't gotten paid, and they got 20 family members to take care of. What do you think?
Right. So your average day, my friend, you get up at 5:30 every morning.
Yeah.
And then you work all day.
Yeah.
And then you do the rounds. Mm-hmm. And then you're always on call.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All night.
Yeah.
And I was in the adjacent room to him, and it was knock knock all night long. Dr. Tom.
Do you ever
Dr. Tom.
Do you ever get
like, shut up, I'm trying to sleep. I didn't have to get up and go, deal with these people.
It's funny because I love that scene where Ken is chasing you basically to go pray first thing in the morning.
You know what?
Yeah.
Let me just talk about that for a second. This guy would not give me a break. And keep in mind, he's a nose guard. So he doesn't move that fast, and he would not stop. He's like, where are we going? We're going to chapel. It's not like something was burning down and he had to put the fire out. He was literally getting there to settle himself, to focus on the day. And the first time I did that, I was shocked because I'm running along saying, okay, can we do that again? He's like, no. No, I got to get there.
So, and folks, if you have not seen this film, you will want to see it. And you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
And so don't think that we shot that 3 different mornings or having him cross through the lens and follow through. No, that Lily was in like one take. I'm running along, tripping, falling over. We had 2 cameras. So, that was helpful. But I knew what he was up to when he got there because he settled himself, he meditated, he prayed the rosary, and he was in a space that really does help him prepare for the day. And he has to do that in order to get through these monster of days.
I think the novelty of the work, like there's the work there is fascinating, and you're always seeing new things and interesting diseases and interesting patients. All that stuff with time can become a lot of the thrill does wear off after some time. So for me, I need something else to kind of keep me going, and I think that's where faith comes into play. Or without that faith behind me to say, okay, I'm here for a reason, get myself focused and centered in the morning before starting it, I would find it very difficult to continue on and keep going at that pace. So faith for me is a very probably the most important aspect of my work there and what keeps me going.
That's great.
There was another scene I wanted you guys to just kind of comment on where you went up to the, would you call it a leper colony? Would you call it a facility?
Leprosy, TB.
Yeah, TB Leprosy Village, what we call it.
Yeah. That was a really powerful scene, in the film. So I guess you could talk about filming it. And then this is a daily thing for you, Dr. Tom?
Yeah.
I will have to say that what he's talking about, seeing 400, 500 patients in a day, it becomes, he's got to be on task. He's got it, and it becomes somewhat robotic, although he's got great bedside manner. There's no doubt about it, but he's got to see these patients. So I asked him, I said, listen, we're getting a lot of this stuff. It's the same thing where, you check things off, you look at these kids and these patients, but I got to get a little bit more. And he said, okay. Follow me up to Leprosy and TB Village, and I'll come up there. But I just want you to come with me. So instead of the other, camera, it was just me and my SLR, and I went up and I what unfolds is just, to me, the essence of the film. Tom up there touching these lepers, reaching out to these TB patients and saying, these people are human. They need love like anybody else.
And I think most of us, and you guys can agree or disagree, but Ken, especially the talent you bring, it really was a wonderful kismet thing that you guys reconnected, because you had a life story, whether or not you thought it was exciting or not. But Ken knew how to tell. We are storytelling creatures. We're just hardwired for it.
Yeah.
And so just to turn a camera on you may have been boring, but Ken knew how to tell it in such a way that it would resonate with humanity.
And I think it comes down to, really, when we've discussed this, having each other's backs on the field, and knowing that certain vernacular, knowing, where we're going to be and how we're going to play, and how that bond that was created and you can rely on, the trust factor. And so to have it kind of come around in life again, and have him in the field and me kind of getting his back in a way and being out there saying, I got you. And then him then saying, okay, I understand what you want, and then giving it to me. It became, once again, trench warfare, but yet in a different way. Where
but you had that shorthand between
with the
you.
shorthand and that trust, and that, I think, very proud of this, comes across in the film, because I don't think someone else could go out and capture that, because there's a trust level and a love for each other.
I think that's why that film ended up being so inspiring, and why just watching you, Ken, take your talents and bring it over there, and your grit and your sacrifice you made to get over there to look after Tom and make sure that this film, once you made it, got out there and got seen. Because when you make a documentary, I mean, there's a lot of documentaries out there, and you worked tirelessly for years making sure this film got seen. Yeah. So now your story's really told. In many ways, many more people know about your story and are inspired by that story. Together, you guys have an amazing synergy that's really, taken an everyday human kind of story like yours, Tom. You just, family, upstate New York, doing your thing, going to school, and then here you create a place that people can go to in Sudan where they have no social services, right? Nothing.
No, zero.
And you are there providing service with the help of other people, whatever it is that inspires them to make a difference, to show up and to stay. You were talking about community and how you wanted to be in a community. How do you feel about where you are now and what you've created? And tell us a little bit about your life lately, your personal life, and things like that.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, I think I have. I'm very fortunate that when I'm there in Nuba, I can say, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And I think that's a pretty good feeling to have.
That's amazing.
And I think what you're alluding to is maybe my marriage to my wife Nazima. We married May 6th, 2016. And I don't know if I told you before about the circumstances for our wedding. I think I told you, Ken. But
yeah,
we had a very interesting wedding day. We were supposed to marry on May 7th. And we got word out. And some of the military, we're in rebel-held territory. There's actually a lot of fighting that April and May. I mean, a lot of fighting. And the Sudan Army soldiers encroached to a point pretty close to us. There have been tons of aerial bombardments. It was a very kind of hectic time. Despite all that, the sisters managed to arrange everything for this wedding. My wife and I didn't do anything. They got food, they got guests, they did all the work for it. Sister Angelina and the other Camboni sisters. So May 7th, we're set, we'll have the wedding. Now, a week before, a couple of the big military commanders come to us and say, look, word of your wedding has reached Khartoum. And we're afraid that that Omar Bashir is going to come and bomb everybody on the wedding day, because they know that there'll be a lot of people there and that there'll be military commanders and other people. And we're sure they're going to come and bomb the event that day. So you got to change the day of the wedding. So we talked, we said, okay, let's move it back one day. Let's move it back to May 6th.
Wow.
We had the wedding on May 6th. And that morning, my younger brother's a priest, my brother Paul. Paul came out. There were a lot of Nuba priests that were there. So I remember we got up early in the morning. We went over to the quote-unquote church. It's just kind of we got married out. It's outdoors. There's no real church there. It's outdoors. It was like a theater of the trees. And we're there kind of going through the steps of the wedding, and this Sukhoi 25 kind of comes and buzzes us. It didn't bomb, but it kind of comes down like, woof, and swoops over. I'm like, crap, are these guys going to come and bomb us later? Little did I know, my wife, Nazima, we hadn't married yet, obviously, but she was staying with the sisters just next to where we were at the church. And she was in the bathroom getting dressed. didn't have any clothes on yet. So the Suka comes over. They all grabbed her without any clothes on. They grabbed her out of the bathroom and threw her down in the foxhole
Outside.
on our wedding morning. Yeah,
oh
outside.
My goodness.
At least you didn't see her in her dress.
That's right.
Or any dress.
Oh,
No,
any
they throw her
dress.
down in the foxhole. She waits there. The jet goes over. She gets dressed. But I think we're one of the few weddings in the world where there's an anti-aircraft gun poised nearby,
Wow.
waiting for someone to come over.
Wow.
But it was an incredible day, and we had.
And you had how many thousands of people were
I
there?
mean, some say 5, some say 10,000. There was a
Oh,
massive.
I've heard above 10.
Okay, I think you
From
created
Ryan
a community.
Ryan
I think you
Boyette,
did.
somebody told me that was like probably up to 15,000 people that made their way. You know, it takes a while to get there.
Yeah, they came from
by
all over
foot,
to
by
my
cart,
house.
whatever.
And you know, what do you estimate the number of people that you serve or in that area?
I mean, it's more than 1 million.
Yeah.
It's more than 1 million because they come from other parts of the mountains. So it's well over 1 million people. That's our catchment area.
You said in one interview.
we say it's one doctor, 1 million patients, you know, one hospital, you know. So and I'll tell you this much: if it's 50,000, it's overwhelming.
What are some things that were some of the most harrowing things you've done?
Well, I mean, there was certainly the initial confusion when fighting broke out, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. I mean, there was you forget about it, but at the time, the Sudan army was kind of spread all throughout Nuba Mountains. So we weren't sure if they were going to overrun positions and come and attack us and destroy the hospital and take us prisoner or kill us. We just didn't know. So the diocese said, okay, we're sending one airplane in into the local area. After that comes, whoever's on the airplane, we're taken out, and we're not sending any more airplanes in. So if you want to get out, you better take that airplane because we can't guarantee anything after that. So we talked, and all the expatriates, all the other expatriates, they were nurses and they were anesthetist or lab person. They said, okay, I'm leaving. So they left. The sisters, Sister Angelina, Sister Rosio, myself, we said, no, we're going to stick it out. Let's stay here. The priest, Father Caesar, stayed. So we said, no, we'll stay and keep things going. But the other expatriate nurses left. Now, the problem with that was we didn't have trained staff. Like this, the anesthetist was the only guy in the mountains that could give anesthesia. There was nobody else.
And you had some soldiers from the Sudan army, didn't you?
We did.
So here are the people trying to kill, trying to annihilate this village and this hospital, and he is actually having to tend to the hatred.
Both sides. It doesn't matter.
And that's,
you just
but that's the kind of guy that, you know.
Yeah.
And some doctors probably would be like, you know what, this is I'm not going to do it.
Was that the same day, or you're just saying in
a different day?
A different day.
And
so then these guys show up, and how did that play out in the hospital with like these guys, kind of like the enemy? Yeah, it's like both sides are there.
Yeah, it was a bit hairy because they had different uniforms. Like, hey, wait a minute, these guys are not with us.
Yikes.
And so one night, one of the guys had a pretty massive wound to his thigh. His thigh bone, femur, was totally shattered. He had a huge wound on his leg.
It's like the Sudanese army guy?
Yeah, Sudanese army guy. So he ends up, so we put him in traction. So put a pin through his leg, kind of the Civil War era treatment. Put a pin through his leg, put him in bed, hang a weight. A weight is a sandbag. Fill a bag with sand, hang it over the edge of the bed. That pulls the leg out into alignment. So he's lying in bed. And we all knew he was Sudan Army. And it was about 10 o'clock at night. And some of the staff came up to my room knocking on the door. Doctor, you got to come. These people all the soldiers are going to kill this Sudan Army guy. And they were just furious. The whole, like the wards are, it's not like an American hospital. You have individual rooms. It's a big kind of open bay. We just wounded everywhere.
And sometimes 2-3 people to a bed.
Yeah, it was just total chaos there. So he's kind of at one end of this huge open room. And I go in there, and they're all standing over his bed, screaming at him.
Oh, no.
One of the guys we had amputated. One guy went over a landmine, and we had amputated his leg. He's like, because of you, I've lost my leg. Blah blah blah. I'm going to kill you. Blah blah. They were going to kill him. He's lying in his bed, terrified, with his leg in traction, like he can't move. So I went down there. I was also exhausted. I just started screaming at everybody. I said, "This is a mission hospital. We are Christian people here. We're taken care of. We don't care who it is. This is our place. We're taking care of this guy. Leave him alone." And they kind of calmed down a bit. And the Nuba are funny. They're very forgiving people. So they kind of calmed down. They kind of got to their senses. And the guy was fine, He was in traction. The bone never healed. So we had to take him back to the operating room, put a metal plate on it, do a bone graft from his hip, and he healed fine. He walked out of the hospital.
Wow.
And, that guy, they allowed him to go and start a little business in the village there. So
Really?
they didn't punish him. They didn't make him prisoner of war and torture him, nothing. That's not their way. They don't do that to people.
That's
These are rebel
amazing.
soldiers.
Can't believe that.
Wow.
They're the most humane soldiers on earth. I mean, they're unbelievable.
So going to the film and what happened once a lot of people saw this film, can you guys expound a little bit on,
Sure.
what happened there?
First of all, I'd like to know what Tom thought of the film when he first saw it, because we
That's
haven't
a
really
good-
talked about that. That to me, and it better be good things.
Yeah, of course I loved it. No, I
But
really.
was it weird to see yourself?
It was very weird. It was weird. I'm not used to seeing myself on film, so that was strange. But
Did
I liked
capture? Did I?
It did. It captured, I thought, the essence of the work there. And remember, I told you when we first met at that place in New York, I said, I want this thing to be about the Nuba.
Yes.
I don't want it focused on me. I want this thing highlighting the Nuba, their struggles for so many years. I mean, they've been there fighting these battles for years, hundreds of years. And I wanted to focus on them. And I think you really captured that. So I really appreciated that very much about the film. The phrase I always say, and I don't want to overuse this phrase, but St. Francis supposedly said, preach always and sometimes use words. And I think what the movie did was it just showed people this is the life that we're living.
And Ken, both of you have seen the government change. I mean, not only on the micro level, we're on the ground, but you've actually seen massive change in the government, right?
We were able to apply a great amount of pressure on Khartoum, namely Bashir, Omar Hassan al-Bashir. So we were through a connection of contacts that I have, we were able to get the film into the hands of the head of parliament, Mahdi Ibrahim, and he was good friends with, connected to Omar Hassan al-Bashir, the president of Sudan, the former president of Sudan, I'm very proud to say. And we were told that he would watch it, and within 2 weeks of that promise, I received a call from Mahdi Ibrahim saying the president has seen your film, and he has reacted with shame and with shock, and that he is going to call for a ceasefire in the next 48 hours.
As if he was surprised. I had
As
no
if
idea.
he was surprised. So and it happened, and we were given a quote from Bashir saying the primary reason for this ceasefire was the Heart of Nuba. Now, having said that, there are so many things that go into this. There's no way that this film achieved that on its own. No way, no chance. There are people like Tom, like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Act for Sudan, and all these NGOs and the sisters and everybody, the staff, and there's so many people, Ryan Boyette and Nuba Reports, all these people played into this. But I think we were able to nudge a little bit and achieve a tipping point that because he saw it, I mean, he didn't want another Darfur, and I'm sure other things came into play.
And I don't know if people know that they were not allowing any journalists in the area, and you smuggled yourself in, basically, kind of.
I was held at gunpoint, and on the when I made it to the refugee camp Yida, we were bombed on the way up, but it was within a couple miles, and we had to get out of the Land Cruiser and jump into a ravine and hide. It's just, but that's an everyday thing. But let me just say, I went in and I got this story. I left.
Right.
Tom stays.
Right.
Ultimately, this film needed to be made because there was an injustice being done. There was a genocide that was taking place, and we cannot put up with that. And the overriding the theme of all this, there was hope there, and that's what drew me to the story. That through all this strife and the animosity and the atrocities, there was hope.
So for our audience, for the Crazy Amazing Humans audience, not everyone's going to be afforded this amazing opportunity. And I know in one of your interviews you've said, hey, I just showed up where the opportunity was. I feel blessed. I want to give back. What kind of things could just, like we say, everyday people doing crazy, amazing things, what can we do right here, right now to make a difference?
Find your own Calcutta. There's Calcutta all around us, but you have to have the eyes to see. It's in your families. There's needs in your families, needs in your workplace, in your schools, and you just have to have the eyes to see. And Tom had the eyes to see in this community, but everybody has the potential of seeing this. And just look around. There are so many needs. I picked Tom up from downtown Los Angeles today, and we saw, just dozens and dozens of tents,
Right.
homeless on the way, and he was just shocked, to be in Los Angeles and to see the homeless. So there are so many things. Get involved in your churches, get involved in your temples, get involved in the boys club, and just be, just be present and be helpful to your neighbor. I mean, love your neighbor as you love thyself.
Shrink your head down and start small. Don't look at people doing things outside. You are a unique individual. For me, this is my thing. For you, it's something totally different, and it's not like what I'm doing is not better than what you're doing. Just do something. Make that small leap and do something, whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot you can do if you just kind of set your mind to it and start looking at it. And don't be afraid to make that jump. People are always a bit timid, like, oh, if I get involved, it's going to take too much of my time or whatever. Just do it. Because you'll talk forever. Just take that step or take that leap.
So true.
Right.
And just do it. Everybody has the potential. And I'm a bit, I'm not a cynic. I think cynicism is one of the great diseases, And I think I think people are in general very good-hearted. People want to help. They want to do something. They just have that fear that holds them back. Just overcome that fear. You have it within you to do really something useful to somebody else. Just make the jump and do it. Don't be afraid. If you do it and it doesn't work out, you don't like it, fine.
Redirect.
Do something else.
Yeah.
Do something else.
Right.
But just do something.
Yeah, do something. It's not. Don't make a big deal about everything. Just kind of go ahead and do it.
And a lot of people have done that to support the hospital.
Oh boy.
Very much.
Right.
Yeah. A
And-
lot.
It's-
Yeah.
But those
We've had a lot of
listeners-
people.
yeah.
It's remarkable.
And I mean, I don't want to overemphasize or underemphasize the financial support. I mean, it sounds crass to talk about this stuff, but the truth is we can't do anything without this kind of support.
Yeah.
Without people like Ken and African Mission Healthcare, CMMB, and other groups that help us out, we can't do anything.
Right.
So
And it's always a struggle, right? You guys struggle.
It's always a struggle.
Always.
Yeah.
Right.
There's many ways to give. I mean, one of the things that Katrina and I created was the Take Heart Foundation. And through that, like we said, every single dollar goes straight to saving lives.
When it goes to
Not
you,
into
you
Tom's
just
pocket.
help. You
Right.
just
Right.
help
Goes to the
to
hospital.
figure out where it
He
goes in
directs
the
it,
hospital.
and he knows.
You
He's-
know what needs you guys
we
have
have
there.
control over it. So if we need
Right.
money to pay for staff, for salaries, we use that.
100%.
Send people to school. We need to
That's
buy drugs.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Not this administrative fee of 15%,
No.
and
No.
we'll get it's 100%, and that way
Yeah.
your dollar goes to
Right,
truly
right.
affecting
Yeah.
lives.
And can I say one step you can take is watch this film.
Oh,
Because
right.
this film will give you the impetus to go, wow, one person can make a difference.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
the
that
thing.
could be
It's
me
amazing.
next time.
It's
right?
amazing.
That's why we made the
It's
film.
So
amazing.
please make sure
Why it
you
works.
watch this film.
Right. It's been so inspirational to watch both of you, the way you've worked together, what you've accomplished with this film, and your trusting Ken. That's one reason why my amazing partner here, Jefferson, and we've been doing music for so long, as we were telling you, Tom, and that why we just decided, what, let's try to make let's make a difference too. Our music goes so far. Let's talk about other people doing great things and help inspire them to do maybe just something little.
Just like we're shining a light on Dr. Tom, we want to shine a light on you
Yes.
and other people doing stuff like this because
Yeah.
we're inspired by you.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, one quick question. I'm sorry. Where can people see this film?
The Heart of Nuba can be seen on Hulu and iTunes. You can see it on PlayStation, on Sony, and it's on Amazon Prime. Amazon. So it's out there. It's readily available.
And then you guys, I believe, are going to be going to Armenia. Am I right about that?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for the Aurora Prize, Tom is the Aurora Prize laureate. You can say that after 1 year, right? You're still.
Can you say that?
Yeah. Well, I was laureate in 2017.
Okay.
So I've been.
All right. Well,
Ex-laureate.
the bottom line is there's a stamp with his mug on it.
Yeah, I know. He's got a stamp in Armenia, everybody. Okay. Maybe
What
you're
is
not
that?
so every day anymore. You're on a stamp. I'm not really sure what that
I got
means,
no
but-
stamp.
I know.
Sunrise, warm far and wide. Hearts roam, seeds thrown, wind blown through the storm. Call it home. Life holds a promise. Love sets it free. Hope grows when we are blooming where we're meant to be. Stand tall, roots deep.
Part 3, Calling All Crazy Amazing Humans. So I think we can all agree that there are distinct challenges we experience in being alive on this planet, right,
Yes,
Kat?
definitely.
We all have the capacity to rise to those challenges and make a difference in the world around us. We may not be able to head to Sudan,
No.
like Dr. Tom, but we can certainly find our own opportunities to change the world for the better right where we live.
Yeah, so here's a cool example of a little segment we like to call Crazy Little Thing Called. Some of you might have seen this. It was in the New York Times a couple weeks back in the Sunday section. The headline was Less Trash, More Schools. One,
Yes, please.
Yeah, one plastic brick at a time. And basically, plastic garbage is being collected by women's groups, and it's being recycled into bricks and used to build schools in West Africa.
What the
Yeah.
what? Are you? Wow.
Yeah, it's
that
really cool. So
is
you can check out that
fantastic.
link on our website.
That's fantastic. Well, okay, so here's another story. This is under the category we like to call Crazy Amazing Kids. Okay, so you may have heard this story on social media or the news, but it bears repeating. There was a schoolboy, many of us maybe have children, school age, or you certainly remember this, with autism, all right? And it was their first day of school. I think it was first grade. And this poor boy, he was overwhelmed. And so he's kind of outside the school in this corner. A classmate comes up to him, notices he's having a hard time, and consoles him. And these are 6-year-olds, right? And then he takes him by the hand, leads him into the school, and was his buddy all day. But not just all day, by the way. They're now best friends. The moms are interviewed.
Wow.
And now they're hanging out after school.
That's awesome.
It gives you hope.
Another segment we're calling Crazy Sexy Cool.
And no, I know you're thinking it, but no, this isn't my photo shoot modeling thongs made out of hemp. Nobody wants to see that.
No, thanks. Okay, this story is a story we read about a photographer who decided to photograph elderly couples in engagement-style photos. And when you recognize like what an accomplishment it is to be married 30, 40, 50 years,
I know, right?
Right? That's like a lot of hard
Wow.
work, a lot of, it's amazing. Then you really can see like the beauty and just the poignancy of these photos of these couples. They're all
The
like,
photographer's like setting them up
Yeah.
like engagement photos,
yes,
right?
they are,
So,
and
wow.
they're all cleaned up and they look so cute, and it's amazing. It's darling. So to see these photos, if you're listening to our audio podcast, you can go to our website, and we're going to play them now for you.
Time goes so slowly, and time can go so fast. Don't know about tomorrow and what's gonna last. I won't take your love for granted. Your heart is mine to lose. You're all I've ever wanted. You're still the one I choose.
So that's our podcast.
We did it.
That's our podcast.
Woo!
We want to thank filmmaker Kenneth A. Carlson and Dr. Tom Catena
Thanks,
for being with
guys.
us today.
If you want to experience a truly remarkable human doing crazy, amazing things, you can check out The Heart of Nuba that is streaming on Hulu, Amazon Prime, and iTunes. So check it out.
Definitely check it out today. You will be so happy
Yeah.
you did. Don't forget to subscribe to our Crazy Amazing Humans podcast and comment on our YouTube channel. We definitely want to hear from you and stay connected with you. We also want to encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, right? And send us an email, please, with any comments or any questions.
Yeah, speaking of emails, if you come across a crazy, amazing human, you want us to know about them and maybe highlight them on our next episode. Please send us an email. Let us know your story. Let us know the story of someone you know, because it could just be you next week. And we just really want to keep this energy going.
Right, and stay connected. So most of all, speaking of that, we just want to make sure to really sincerely thank you for being with us. Remember this, that every little kindness has the potential to create crazy, amazing human experiences, one person at a time. This week, we want to encourage you to find one thing that you can do to extend kindness and love in the world.
I'm Katrina Carlson.
And I'm Jefferson Denim.
Yeah. Thanks for coming for the Crazy Amazing Humans podcast.
See you next time.
I want you to feel, I want you to feel something crazy.